It's great to see everybody. This is actually a surprisingly large turnout. It's very gratifying that so many people are interested in politics this year. This is the first gubernatorial election year in which the primary will occur not in September, as it always has before, but in June. So the primary this year literally occurs almost just barely 3 months from now. You wouldn't know it because the legislature is still in session and not much is going on. So this, I guess we have the privilege this evening of being in the first political event of 2014 in the North Baltimore County. This evening, there are three of us who are going to present briefly, each of us first, for about 10 minutes apiece. And then after we've talked to you about our credentials and what we're interested in and why we're running, we're going to turn the evening over to you. Most of the evening is going to be devoted to your questions and your comments from the floor, and we're going to try to respond to them, not knowing what you're going to ask us and try to do the best we can under the circumstances. I'm Chris West. I am a candidate for delegate in District 42B, which is this thing. It's a brand newly gerrymandered district. It's put together from about 4 different legislative districts that existed previously. Many of you probably are familiar with District 5B, which is the one that elected Wade Catch. 5B is no more. It has disappeared, and most of it has been folded into 42B up in the North County. The rest of it down here in the more populated part of the district is what used to be known as 42. The part of 42 that was very populated in Towson down below has been cut out altogether, and that's now District 42A. So 42B, which is this gyrating color-coded thing on the map, is a 2-delegate district. And so 42B, and Hereford, by the way, is right here. So 42B will elect 2 delegates. The primary election, again, is on June 24th, and the general election is in November, of course.
How many total state delegates do we have?
We have 47 times 3. You can probably do the math better than I can. We have 47 state Senate districts. Every state Senate district has 3 delegates attached to it. So multiply 47 times 3, and you've got the number of delegates in the State General Assembly. With me this evening are Todd, Huff, and David Marks. Todd and David are both incumbent county councilmen from Baltimore County. David is probably the most earnest young man I've ever met. He is terminally earnest, totally sincere, totally committed to doing a good job for his constituents. And he's done such a good job that, to his credit, I guess, he has no opposition in either the Republican primary or in the general election this year. He represents Towson, which is down here at the bottom, and his district extends over to his home base, which is in Perry Hall, which is off to the left, or off to the east of District 42B. Todd Huff was elected 4 years ago. He's been the delegate, the county councilman who represents the district, which includes virtually all of 42B, but it's a larger district. It splays out on either side and includes precincts that are not in 42B. For example, Todd's district includes Mays Chapel on the west side of Interstate 83 over here, which District 42B does not include. The way we thought we'd do it tonight is each of us are going to talk for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to take questions for the balance of the evening. So let me start. I'm Chris West. I was born and raised in this district. I was raised in a little rented frame house in Ruxton, about 3 blocks away from where I live right now. I went to school locally. I went to Williams College, the University of Pennsylvania Law School, and then came back to Baltimore to practice law. I joined the firm of Sims, Billin & Sims, which is one of the largest firms downtown. I'm a business lawyer. I spent my entire career representing Maryland small businesses. Until 2 months ago, I was the head of the business section of Sims, Billin & Sims and sat on the firm's management committee. I stepped down in order to make this race. Because I've worked with small businesses my entire career, I know what's happening to them. And what's happening to them is not pretty. And it's mainly the reason why I'm running now. I've reached the age where I can afford to slow down my legal career and devote 90 sustained days to representing my constituents, my community, and my state down in Annapolis and trying to make a difference. And somebody needs to go down there and make a difference, because I believe that Annapolis is broken and we're on the wrong road. the Democrats have run over the Republicans consistently all the way through the O'Malley administration. Every time there's been a significant vote in Annapolis, the Republicans have lost. I don't know what the Republicans are doing down there, but whatever it is, it certainly has not worked. I think we need new leadership. I think we need new strategies. I think we need new ideas. As a lawyer, I've been very active over the years. I'm a past president of the Baltimore City Bar Association. I currently am sitting for my second term as a member of the Board of Governors of the Maryland State Bar Association. And as I say, I've represented small businesses. I have not solely practiced law, though. I have devoted a lot of time over the years to community affairs. I was the head of my community association. Unfortunately, it was the year the light rail came through. And if you want to know how controversial a community association president can be, my year was about the most controversial year I can possibly imagine. Our community literally divided in half over light rail. Our ultimate decision, for what it's worth, was not to oppose the light rail coming along the existing tracks, and therefore it was built, but not to ask for any stops in Ruxton because there was just no place to park cars. And we were terribly afraid that we were going to have people parking up and down the neighborhood streets 365 days a year from 6 o'clock in the morning until after midnight every day, and we didn't want that. It remained a controversial decision, but I think these days the people of Ruxton are very happy that we made the decision we did. I've also been the vice chair of the Maryland State Arts Council, the head of the Young Victorian Theater Company. I could go on and on with all of the organizations I've been involved with over time. I see Penn Jones over here, who is in my church with me. I was the senior warden of Emmanuel Episcopal Church on 2 separate occasions. And I've been very active with the Maryland Republican Party over the years. I've never run for public office before, but I've been as active as you can be behind the scenes. I'm a past chair of the Baltimore County Republican Party. I'm a past executive director of the Maryland State Republican Party. I was counsel for the Maryland State Republican Party for 20 years. I've been very supportive all along of Helen Bentley, Helen Sauerbrey, and Bob Ehrlich in particular, but other politicians as well. And if you look at the flyers that I put on your table, you will see lots of commendations and endorsements. That's because I have worked with people you've heard of, more than you've heard of me now, for 20 and 30 years. I decided to run for office this year because I'm so distraught at what's happening to our business community. We are on the wrong road, and if we continue down this road, we're going to be educating a lot of very smart kids who will have to leave Maryland in order to find jobs. Lots of businesses are leaving Maryland. When O'Malley came to the state, we had 12 Fortune 500 companies in Maryland, headquartered in Maryland. Virginia had 17, so they were ahead of us, but not by much. Today, after 8 years of Martin O'Malley, we only have 3 Fortune 500 companies left in Maryland. Virginia has 24. Look at the difference. None of the 3, by the way, are in Baltimore. Baltimore is one of 2 NFL cities with no Fortune 500 companies headquartered. The other is Buffalo, New York. Those, of course, are the bigger companies, but they employ lots of people. And when they leave, their employees leave as well. My father worked for Black & Decker for nearly 30 years. Black & Decker is no more. It's just an example. But the example is replicated again and again and again. 6,500 small businesses in Maryland during the O'Malley administration have either folded or left the state. Why are they leaving the state? Well, item number 1 is O'Malley raised the state's corporate income tax. Today in Virginia, the corporate income tax is 6%. In Maryland, it's 8.25%. Well, if you're a corporate executive and you want to locate either your headquarters or a big production facility in the greater DC area, and you take a look at the 2 adjoining states, Maryland and Virginia, and you find Maryland's corporate tax rate is 8.25% and Virginia's is 6%, the question answers itself. No wonder we're not attracting companies to Maryland. Companies come and they go, and you can't blame O'Malley completely for the loss in all the Fortune 500 companies over the last 8 years. But I think you can blame O'Malley because it's just been a one-way street. The companies only have been leaving, they have not been coming. And every one of these companies mean jobs. Jobs, jobs, jobs. Bethlehem Steel. All the employees from Bethlehem Steel have lost their jobs permanently. Many of them have left the state. We have 200,000 Maryland residents each day who leave Maryland to go to a different political jurisdiction to work, and then they return to Maryland in the afternoon. Many of them are going to Virginia. If you go to Virginia, you will see those large construction cranes all over the place. If you go down into downtown Baltimore and go up on top of the World Trade Center, which is that pentagonal building, and the 21st floor, you can walk around and look out all the different directions. How many construction cranes will you see in Baltimore? None. In January this year, the numbers just were announced earlier this week. January 2014, Maryland lost 10,000 jobs. There are 10,000 fewer jobs today than there were in December. We don't know what happened in February. What's happening to Maryland is really not pretty. We are growing at half of the rate of the rest of the country. And that's going to, in the long term, the repercussions of that are going to be disastrous for us. So I want to go down to Annapolis. I've been a lawyer all my life. I sit across the table from people. I know how to negotiate. When I go into negotiation, I know what I have to have and what I can give up. I've got a pretty good idea on the other side, what they have to have and what they can give up. You establish some common ground in between, and then you try to build bridges and see what you can do, because all your clients really want to get the deal done. Nobody hires you because they don't want to get the deal done. They hire you to get the deal done. We've had very little deals getting done in Annapolis, and very little Republican input down in Annapolis. You have to be willing to sit down with the other side and talk to them and see what kind of common ground you can find. I think I can do that because I've demonstrated through my career that I can do that. By the way, I'm not looking to start a political career. I've had a full career as a lawyer, and a successful one. I want to go down to Annapolis merely to provide public service for 4 years, for 90 days a year. I may not stand for a second term. If I should stand for a second term, I surely will not stand for a third term. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Second in line here is David Marks, who I indicated earlier was the councilman for Towson and for Perry Hall. And David, I think, has some pretty exciting things to report about. Unlike in Annapolis, where it's broken, Towson is not broken. Things in Towson are working pretty well in so many respects, and David can tell you about some of them.
Thank you very much, Chris. It is a real pleasure to be here tonight. I'm here because Chris West asked me to come and talk about some of the issues in my district, especially Towson. And many of you may work in Towson. I think certainly the future of Towson impacts the future of Baltimore County. There's certainly a lot of exciting things to report. I want to begin by commending Chris West. He has been a wonderful foot soldier for the Republican Party for many years. But I think he is also an example of the type of real citizen we want to have in society. Someone who collects a paycheck, works hard, supports his family, but also gives back not just to his political party, but to his community. He's a class act. He's got a lot of integrity, and it's great to be here on his behalf. I also want to talk about my colleague, Councilman Huff. Councilman Huff and I have collaborated on a number of issues in the Baltimore County Council. I think we work very well with the Democratic majority on a lot of issues. He is someone I talk to very frequently. He has certainly some achievements he can tell you about in the 3rd District, and it is always a pleasure to be with him at any forum. I want to also say that I have a lot of friends running in various races. I have not endorsed specifically in this race. If any of the other folks running were to invite me to forums, I would be happy to come and also talk about the things that are going on in my district. A little bit about me. I was elected in 2010 from the 5th District, which stretches from Charles Street in the west to the Hereford County line in the east. It's a product of redistricting in 2002, where 2 districts were put together. It includes Towson, Loch Raven, Parkville, Perry Hall, White Marsh, and Kingsville. And in the next election, we'll include Fullerton and Oakcrest Village. It's a real interesting collection of communities, many of which have a lot of different characteristics, but also have a lot of similarities. Before my election, I served about 10 years as president of the Perry Hall Improvement Association. I worked hard to get a new library built in Perry Hall. I also was very active in the Baltimore County Historical Trust, and I see a number of my friends here from the Historical Trust. We worked with a lot of historic preservation issues throughout Baltimore County, including some here in Hereford. So I was elected in 2010. I actually quit my job in the federal government to run for office. You had to quit under the Hatch Act to run. I talked to my wife. We decided this was something that I wanted to do. And I ran for about 6 months, and I was elected. And, you know, I've really tried to focus in my term in office to be both a bipartisan and an independent council member. You know, Chris hit it right on the